You know you are doing everything you were taught to do.
Hmm.
You are working hard. You are putting in the hours.
Just grinding through the week.
Exactly, grinding through the week.
Yeah.
You are diligently saving your money,
Yeah.
putting a little bit away from every single paycheck.
Doing the responsible thing.
Right, the responsible thing. You are trying your absolute best to stay out of debt,
Yeah.
paying off those credit cards, avoiding unnecessary loans. You are paying your taxes.
You are following the blueprint to the letter.
Yes, following the blueprint.
Yeah.
And yet when you look at your bank account, when you look at the trajectory of your life, you still feel like you are somehow falling behind.
It is a terrible feeling.
It really is.
Yeah.
Imagine you are staring at your own savings right now, running the numbers in your head, and you realize the math it just does not add up. The finish line keeps moving.
It keeps getting pushed further and further away.
Why is that? Why does the path we were all promised would lead to security suddenly feel like a treadmill that is just moving way too fast?
That is the exact friction so many people are feeling today. I mean, it is a very specific type of exhaustion.
Exhaustion is the right word.
Because you aren't failing because you are lazy. You are exhausted because you are playing a game where the rules fundamentally shifted, but no one bothered to hand you the new rule book.
They just left you with the old one.
Right. You are operating on a paradigm that might have worked flawlessly 50 years ago, but in the modern economic landscape, it is actually designed to keep you running in place.
Designed to keep you running in place. And that feeling, that gnawing sense that the conventional wisdom is somehow fundamentally flawed, that brings us to the focus of today's deep dive.
And we have some incredible material to go through today.
We really do. We are looking at a fascinating stack of source material. We have excerpts from the final chapter of a massive best-selling personal finance book, along with some of the author's biographical and marketing materials.
The author being Robert Kiyosaki.
Correct. Robert Kiyosaki, best known for Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which the text notes is actually the #1 personal finance book of all time.
It is a juggernaut in the financial space. And our mission for this deep dive is ambitious, but it is absolutely crucial if you want to understand why that treadmill feels so fast.
So what exactly are we breaking down today?
We are going to completely deconstruct what the text calls the standard formula of life. We are going to examine why relying on that old inherited formula might be the exact thing holding you back.
Holding you back instead of pushing you forward.
Exactly. And we are going to replace it with a concept the author calls financial intelligence. Most importantly, we are going to explore a really pervasive phrase.
Which phrase is that?
The idea that it takes money to make money. We are going to uncover why the author argues that this phrase might actually be the ultimate trap for the unsophisticated.
Okay, we have a lot of ground to cover. And to be upfront, some of the concepts we're going to explore might actively challenge things you have believed your entire life.
Things your parents taught you, things your teachers taught you.
Right. But we are going to take it step by step. We're going to look at the philosophy. We're going to look at the exact mechanics of a real-world example provided in the text. And we are going to figure out how this applies to the choices you make every single day.
It is about moving beyond just the theory. Our goal is to synthesize these incredibly provocative concepts into actionable insights for you.
Actionable insights. I love that.
We want to look at the underlying architecture of how wealth is actually generated according to this text, and why the traditional advice often acts as a barrier to that wealth.
So let's start by looking right at that barrier. The text begins with a massive swing at conventional wisdom, laying out that standard formula we just touched on.
The formula everyone knows.
Right. The formula is simple. Work hard, save, borrow, and pay excessive taxes.
Work hard, save, borrow, pay taxes. That is the loop.
That is the loop. The author argues that without specific financial training, this is the default setting for almost everyone. It is the factory preset for the modern citizen.
The factory preset. That is a great way to put it.
But he says that today, more than ever, we need better information. So why is this formula considered obsolete in what the text calls today's fast-paced information age?
To understand why it is obsolete, you really have to look at where it came from. This standard formula represents what the author categorizes as poor dad advice.
Poor dad advice.
Right. It is a formula rooted entirely in the industrial age. Think about the mechanics of the industrial age. It relied heavily on your own physical or mental effort.
So you're trading your hours for dollars.
Exactly, trading hours for dollars. And it relies entirely on traditional banking systems. You work hard to earn the money, you save it in a bank. You borrow from that same bank to buy a house or a car, and you pay whatever taxes the government dictates.
So you are just moving through these massive institutions.
Yes. The author is pointing out that this formula leaves you entirely at the mercy of external forces. You are not leveraging ideas, you are just leveraging your own sweat.
Just your own sweat.
And in an information age where ideas can be scaled infinitely and instantly relying solely on your own labor is a fundamentally limited strategy.
But wait, the biographical material goes even further than just calling it limited. It highlights that the author's point of view is that the old advice, things like going to college, getting a good job, saving money, getting out of debt, investing for the long term, and diversifying, has become totally obsolete.
Totally obsolete. He does not hold back.
No, he does not. And he makes some incredibly provocative claims here. He says things like savers are losers, and your house is not an asset.
Which naturally upsets a lot of people.
I mean, I have to push back here because when I first read those phrases, they honestly sound absurd.
Sure they do.
How can saving money make you a loser? And how is a house literally the biggest, most extensive purchase most people ever make in their entire lives? The thing we are told is our primary wealth builder. How is that not an asset?
It is deeply counterintuitive, and the text acknowledges that this perspective ignites a firestorm of criticism and ridicule.
I bet it does.
But let us analyze the underlying logic based on the text. Why does he claim savers are losers? If you are operating under the old formula, saving money seems like the ultimate responsible action.
Right. You were putting money away for a rainy day.
But the author is arguing that if you are just hoarding cash in a traditional savings account, you are not utilizing financial intelligence. You are letting the money sit idle.
It is just sitting there doing nothing.
Exactly. And while it sits idle, inflation and massive economic shifts are actively eroding its purchasing power. So you aren't actually saving. You are slowly losing value.
So because a dollar today buys less tomorrow, keeping it under the mattress or at a low-yield account means you are mathematically losing wealth.
Hence, savers are losers.
Okay, I can see the logic there regarding inflation eating away at stagnant cash. But what about the house? If I pay off my mortgage, I have a tangible piece of property I can sell. How is that not an asset in the traditional sense?
Because the text fundamentally redefines the word asset based on cash flow, not net worth.
Cash flow, not net worth. Okay, explain that.
The core philosophy here is about directionality. Where is the money moving? A traditional house that you live in takes money out of your pocket every single month.
That is true. You have the mortgage.
The mortgage, the maintenance, the property taxes, the insurance, the repairs, it is a constant drain on your resources.
It is always asking for more money.
Yes, the text implies that true assets put money into your pocket. True assets generate positive cash flow without requiring your continuous labor.
So your primary residence under this definition is a liability because it demands your capital to maintain it.
Exactly. And while these messages challenge the status quo and invite heavy criticism, the author presents them as having played out on the world economic stage over the past decade in ways that are both unsettling and prophetic.
That reframing of what an asset actually is completely changes the picture. Think about your own life listening to this right now. Think about your daily adherence to this standard formula.
Waking up, commuting, working hard.
Waking up, commuting, working hard at your job. You try to put a little bit away in a savings account that yields almost nothing. You pay your mortgage. You pay your taxes.
It is a lot of pressure.
How much of your daily anxiety that knot in your stomach when you check your balance comes from trying to make an obsolete formula work in a modern world?
Probably a lot of it.
It is like trying to navigate a brand new, rapidly changing city using a map printed 30 years ago. You are driving perfectly, you're following all the traffic laws, but the roads simply do not go where they used to.
That is exactly the cognitive dissonance the author is trying to highlight. The anxiety comes from doing everything right according to the map you were handed, but still ending up lost and stressed.
So what is the solution then?
The author is urging a complete mindset shift. He is asking you to step away from the reliance on just hard work in traditional institutions and move toward a reliance on financial intelligence.
So we have talked about how this standard formula is failing us conceptually. But what does it actually look like in practice? How do you transition from relying on that old map to using financial intelligence?
We need a concrete example.
We do. And the text provides a fantastic, highly detailed anecdote that completely changes how you view the real estate market. This is the story of the Phoenix house.
This is a great story.
I want to spend a significant amount of time here because the mechanics of this story reveal the massive gulf between conventional thinking and financial intelligence.
This anecdote is truly the cornerstone of the text's argument. It takes these lofty, provocative theories about assets and banking and transitions them into absolute granular reality.
The text sets the scene with a friend of the author. This friend is gripping one day about how hard it is to save money for his 4 children's college educations.
Let's look at his numbers because they are incredibly relatable.
They really are.
Yeah.
He is putting $300 away in a college fund every single month. So far, he has accumulated about $12,000.
That is a solid start.
It is, but he only has 12 years left to save before his oldest, who is currently 6, goes to college.
Let us pause and analyze the psychology of this friend for a moment. He is the absolute embodiment of the standard formula.
He is doing everything right.
He is disciplined. He is saving his $300 a month. He probably feels a sense of duty and responsibility doing this, but deep down he knows the math is failing him.
It just won't be enough.
$12,000 saved plus $300 a month for 12 years. Even without factoring in the exploding costs of higher education, he is realizing he will fall drastically short.
You can just feel the anxiety.
The anxiety is palpable. He believes he is trapped in a linear progression that simply isn't steep enough to reach his goal.
Exactly. He is doing the math of the old map. And when the author suggests that the friend take some of that $12,000 college fund and buy a house, the friend hits a massive psychological barrier.
What is his immediate reaction?
His immediate reflexive response is that he does not have credit with the bank to buy another house because he is already so overextended.
This is such a critical moment in the text because it exposes the invisible cage of conventional wisdom.
The invisible cage.
The friend assumes that traditional banks are the absolute only gateway to investment. In his mind, the bank is the ultimate arbiter of his financial future.
Right. If the bank says no, then it is a no.
If the bank's underwriter looks at his debt-to-income ratio and says no, then the game is over. He has no other options. This is a mental block created entirely by the standard formula.
But the author challenges that.
Yes, the author assures him there are other ways to finance a property rather than through a bank. This is the application of financial intelligence.
Seeing past the gatekeepers.
Seeing past the institutional gatekeepers and understanding that capital can flow through alternative channels.
So let's walk through the exact strategy execution because it is brilliant in its simplicity. The setting is Phoenix. And at the time, the real estate market in Phoenix was, quote, terrible.
Terrible.
People were literally giving houses away.
And right there, we have another fundamental divergence in thinking. To the average person following the standard formula, a terrible market means danger.
You mean stay away.
It means you retreat to safety, you hold on to your cash, you wait for things to improve. But financial intelligence means reframing the environment.
Reframing the environment how?
It means seeing a terrible market as an environment rich with opportunity, an environment where the buyer holds all the leverage.
Right, so they go shopping. For 2 weeks, they look for a house that fits their criteria. The text says there were plenty to choose from, making the shopping fun.
They had their pick of the litter.
Finally, they find the target, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in a prime neighborhood. But here is the crucial detail about the seller. The owner of the home had been downsized from his job.
He was in a tough spot.
He needed to sell that exact day because he and his family were moving to California where a new job was waiting.
The alignment of circumstances here is paramount. You have a freely motivated seller in a depressed market holding an asset in a prime location.
The seller is desperate.
The seller's urgency dictates the negotiation leverage. The seller does not have the luxury of waiting 6 months for the perfect buyer to secure traditional financing. His priority is speed, not necessarily maximizing the sale price.
And the negotiation reflects that urgency. It is brutal, but incredibly effective. The owner's asking price is $102,000.
And what do they offer?
The author and his friend offer only $79,000, and the owner takes it immediately.
He takes it immediately because, again, his primary problem wasn't squeezing every last dollar out of the property. His primary problem was leaving for California that day without the massive anchor of a mortgage in Phoenix holding him back.
He just needed to cut ties quickly.
Yes.
But here's the part that blows my mind. Remember, the friend has no bank credit. He cannot go to a major bank and get a mortgage for this $79,000 house. So how do they buy it?
This is where the magic happens.
The text says they agreed to have the seller carry back the loan with a 10% down payment. I really want to dig into this because this isn't some magic trick. It is a structural mechanism that most people don't even know exists.
This is the exact moment the friend completely bypasses the traditional financial institutions. Carrying back the loan refers to seller financing.
Seller financing.
In a standard real estate transaction, a bank hands the seller a massive check for the full amount, and then you, the buyer, pay the bank back over 30 years with interest. The bank is the middleman.
Right, they take a huge cut for facilitating it.
With seller financing, you cut the bank out entirely. The seller acts as the bank. Instead of getting a lump sum from an institution, the seller agrees to accept a down payment directly from the buyer. And then the seller receives monthly mortgage payments directly from the buyer.
This solves everything for both parties. For the seller, it solves the problem of needing to sell immediately without waiting for a buyer's bank to approve a loan, do an appraisal, and drag out the closing process for months.
It gets the deal done today.
And for the buyer, the friend, it completely eliminates the need for a bank credit check. The seller isn't looking at his debt-to-income ratio. The seller just wants the deal done.
Precisely. It is a mutually beneficial agreement forged entirely outside the purview of the traditional banking system. This is what the author means by financial intelligence.
Just bypassing the gatekeeper.
It is understanding that financing is just an agreement between two parties, and it doesn't always require a multinational bank to facilitate it.
So let's look at the actual math here. A 10% down payment on a $79,000 agreed price is $7,900.
$7,900.
All the friend had to come up with out of his $12,000 college fund was $7,900. And what is the immediate result? As soon as the owner moves here, the friend puts the house up for rent.
And the tenant starts paying?
After all expenses are paid, the property tax, the insurance, and the new monthly mortgage payment going directly to the seller, the friend puts about $125 in his pocket each month. It is positive cash flow.
Let us spend a moment marveling at this shift. The friend was operating under a mindset of deep scarcity, constrained by bank approvals and slow savings rates.
He felt totally stuck.
By applying a simple shift in thinking, understanding how seller financing works, and seeking out a motivated seller, he acquired a massive asset for just $7,900. He completely bypassed the traditional institutional barriers.
You didn't need the bank's permission.
And remember our earlier definition of an asset. This house is now putting $125 into his pocket every single month without his daily labor. It is a true asset.
And his initial plan is very modest. It is just slow, steady growth. He plans to keep the house for the next 12 years, apply that extra cash to the principal every month to pay down the mortgage faster, and maybe clear $800 a month by the time his kid goes to college, or just sell it if it appreciates.
It is a solid conservative plan.
It is, but that is not what happens. The story does not end there. And this brings us to the macro-level snowball. This is where we see the velocity of money when financial intelligence is applied.
This is where the true power of the strategy reveals itself. The initial purchase of the Phoenix house was just the catalyst.
Just the first domino.
It was getting the snowball to the top of the hill. What happens next is about letting the momentum of the market and the tax code do the heavy lifting.
The plot twist comes 3 years later. The Phoenix real estate market, which was terrible, greatly improves. The tenant who has been living in the house and paying the rent actually offers to buy it for $156,000.
That is a massive jump from $79,000.
Huge jump. Now the friend goes back to the author for advice. The author tells him to sell it, and this is critical, using a specific mechanism called a 1031 tax-deferred exchange.
The 1031 exchange.
Now, the text mentions this mechanism without diving into the deep legal statutes.
Yeah.
But conceptually, what is happening here and why is it so important?
Based on how the text frames this maneuver, the 1031 tax-deferred exchange is a legal mechanism that allows you to move the capital gains, the profit, from the sale of an investment property directly from one investment into another similar investment in order to defer paying taxes on that profit.
Right, because if the friend just sold the house for $156,000 and took the cash profit, what would happen?
If he just took the cash, the standard formula kicks in. The government would recognize that massive profit as a taxable event, and they would take a significant percentage of it immediately.
He would just take a huge bite right out of his momentum.
His momentum would be crippled by taxation. By using the 1031 exchange, he legally defers that tax burden. He keeps the entirety of the profit intact. And he rolls 100% of that momentum forward into a larger asset.
100% of it.
It is a mechanism designed to accelerate the compounding of wealth by keeping capital fully deployed rather than surrendered to taxes.
And look at the domino effect this creates. The text outlines the subsequent trades, and the speed and scale are staggering compared to his old 300 a month savings plan.
Walk us through the trades.
So trade 1. The friend has suddenly made nearly $80,000 in profit from that initial $7,900 investment. He takes that $80,000 and through the tax-deferred exchange, moves it into a mini storage facility in Austin, Texas.
A mini storage facility.
The result of that trade. Within 3 months, he is receiving checks for a little less than $1,000 a month, which he pours directly back into the college fund.
Notice the immense escalation. He went from putting $300 a month of his own hard-earned money, his own physical labor into the fund, to having an asset generate nearly $1,000 a month for the fund.
And it requires none of his daily labor.
None of it. He has completely decoupled his earning potential from his physical time.
But it keeps going. Trade 2. A couple of years later, that mini warehouse in Austin sells. He receives a proceeds check for nearly $330,000.
The snowball is rolling down the hill, now gathering massive speed and mass. The leveraging of the initial asset combined with the tax deferral creates exponential growth.
Exponential is right. Trade 3. He rolls those funds into a new project that generates over $3,000 a month in income. Over $3,000 a month, all going into the college fund.
If we synthesize this entire journey, it is nothing short of breathtaking. The friend started with severe anxiety, a failing standard formula, and just $7,900 in available cash.
Just $7,000.
By substituting hard work for a little financial intelligence, understanding seller financing, recognizing a motivated seller, and utilizing a tax-deferred exchange, what is the ultimate takeaway?
His problem to solve.
His children's educations are entirely funded. He is totally confident his goal will be met. Furthermore, the text points out that he will then use the underlying asset, which is wrapped in a legal entity, to pay for his own retirement.
He gets to retire early.
He will be able to retire early, all as a result of this successful, intelligent investment strategy.
Think about that transformation. From panic over a $300 a month savings plan to early retirement and fully funded tuition for 4 children. All sparked by a single small purchase that didn't even require a bank loan.
It fundamentally disproves a major myth.
Yes, the text explicitly states, quote, "The idea that it takes money to make money is the thinking of financially unsophisticated people."
Unsophisticated people.
The author says it does not mean they aren't intelligent, just that they haven't learned the science of money making money. He insists that money is only an idea, and if you want more of it, you simply change your thinking.
This raises a profound question for you, the listener. How many opportunities have you walked past in your life because you assumed you didn't have the prerequisite capital?
How many times did you say, "I can't afford that"?
Exactly. How many times have you told yourself, "I can't afford that," instead of asking, "How can I afford that?" The text asserts that every self-made person started small with an idea and turned it into something big.
You don't need $1 million to start.
No. The author warns against spending your life chasing the big deal or amassing a huge nest egg just to blow it on a single risky venture because you lack actual investor skills.
So the lesson from the Phoenix House isn't about getting lucky in real estate.
Not at all. It is about starting small, applying intelligence, and letting the mechanics of the market and tax codes do the heavy lifting for you.
That distinction is incredibly powerful. It is not about hoarding a massive pile of cash. It is about understanding how money flows, which is the perfect pivot to look at the actual architecture of how money works according to the text.
We need to look at the taxonomy of wealth.
Right. The author introduces us to the accounting world's view of money, dividing it into 3 distinct types of income. Let's dig into this taxonomy of wealth because understanding the differences between these 3 incomes seems to be the literal dividing line between the struggling and the wealthy.
It is the foundation.
The 3 incomes are ordinary earned, portfolio, and passive.
This taxonomy is absolutely foundational to the entire philosophy of the text. If you do not grasp the structural differences between these 3 categories, you will remain trapped in the standard formula indefinitely.
Let's start with the first one, the one almost everyone listening is intimately familiar with, ordinary earned income.
The day job income.
The day job income. The author says this is the income his poor dad advised him to get. It's the go to school, get good grades, and find a safe, secure job income. It is the money you work for. You trade your time, your energy, your stress for a paycheck.
And crucially, the text highlights a devastating reality about ordinary earned income that most people never fully internalize.
What is that?
It is the highest taxed income. This is the income of the standard formula. You are trading your finite time and energy for dollars, and the government is taking the largest possible percentage of those dollars before you ever even see them.
They take it right out of the paycheck before it even hits your bank.
It is the most inefficient way to generate wealth because you are fighting maximum taxation and the physical limits of your own time.
Then we have the second category, portfolio income. The text defines this as income derived from paper assets, such as stocks and bonds.
Paper assets.
And there's a very specific, illuminating example used to illustrate the power of this income. The author points out that portfolio income is the income that makes Bill Gates the richest man in the world, not earned income.
Right. Bill Gates isn't rich because of his hourly wage.
Exactly. Bill Gates isn't the richest man because he earns the highest hourly wage at Microsoft. He is the richest because of the vast portfolio of paper assets he holds.
Precisely. The power of portfolio income is that it scales independently of physical labor. Bill Gates' wealth grows whether he is in the office sleeping or on vacation. The asset itself is generating the value.
Finally, the third category, passive income. The text notes that in most cases this is income derived from real estate investments, just like the Phoenix house anecdote we explored.
The ultimate goal.
If earned income is you working for money, passive income represents money working for you.
And here is the most vital characteristic of passive income, according to the author, the characteristic that changes everything. It is the least taxed income.
So let's lay this out clearly. We have earned income, which requires your constant grueling labor and is taxed the highest. We have portfolio income based on paper assets that scale independently. And we have passive income based mostly on real estate, which works for you and is taxed the least.
That is the landscape.
According to the text, what is the ultimate secret to wealth based on these three categories?
The author's Rich Dad states it plainly, and it is perhaps the most important sentence in the text. Quote, "The key to becoming wealthy is the ability to convert earned income into passive income or portfolio income as quickly as possible."
As quickly as possible.
That is the secret. It is a conversion process. You take the highly taxed money you bled for in your day job, and you transition it into vehicles where it works for you independently under a much more favorable tax structure.
You are rescuing your money from the tax code.
Exactly. The text explicitly states, quote, "The government taxes the income you work hard for more than the income your money works hard for."
The government taxes the income you work hard for more than the income your money works hard for. That realization is staggering.
It explains so much.
It completely explains why the middle class feels stuck on a treadmill. You are playing a game where the rules are literally designed to penalize the method of earning you were taught to rely on.
It is an uphill battle.
The system is rigged to heavily tax your sweat and lightly tax your assets. So if you never learn to convert your sweat into assets, you are perpetually fighting an uphill battle against the tax code.
It is a profound and often frustrating realization for many people, and the author expands on this structural inequality in human behavior and education through a framework discussed in his second book.
Let's explore that framework. The text mentions that in his second book, Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant, the author explains that there are 4 different types of people who make up the world of business.
The 4 quadrants.
These are represented by 4 letters, E, S, B, and I. Let's break these down. E stands for employee. S stands for self-employed. B stands for business owner. And I stands for investor.
The text utilizes this quadrant to illustrate a massive educational divide in our society. It states that most people go to school to learn to be an E or an S.
An employee or self-employed.
Think about the traditional educational system. It is a pipeline designed almost exclusively to produce employees. People who follow instructions, work set hours, and collect a paycheck.
Right.
And self-employed individuals like doctors or lawyers who might earn more, but are still fundamentally trading their highly specialized time for money.
And both the E and the S are the people relying almost entirely on ordinary earned income.
Exactly. They are trained from kindergarten through college to operate on the side of the quadrant that is taxed the highest and relies entirely on their own continuous labor.
If they stop working, the money stops.
If an E or an S stops working, their income stops. The author notes that the core differences between these 4 types of people dictate how they navigate the world of money. More importantly, he states that most of the educational products his financial company creates are designed specifically for people in the B&I quadrants, the business owners and investors.
So the entire goal of his books, his games, his teachings is essentially a rescue mission.
A rescue mission.
It is to pull people out of the E&S quadrants where they are overtaxed and overworked and drag them into the B&I quadrants. It is about teaching people to become the architects of their own income rather than just cogs in someone else's machine.
That is the whole point of his work.
But I have to ask, because this is the immediate fear most people have, isn't investing inherently risky? We are taught that a job is safe and investing is a gamble.
The text addresses that fear directly, and it flies in the face of what most of us believe. The author quotes his rich dad saying, quote, "All a real investor does is convert earned income into passive and portfolio income. If you know what you're doing, investing is not risky, it's just common sense."
Investing is not risky. It's just common sense. That is a massive paradigm shift.
It requires you to fundamentally alter your perception of risk. To the average person in the E-quadrant, investing feels incredibly risky because they do not understand the mechanics.
Feels like gambling.
It feels like throwing money into a black box and hoping it multiplies. But to the educated investor in the I-quadrant, the real risk is relying entirely on a single source of earned income that can be taken away instantly if you lose your job.
Or if your company downsizes, like the seller of the Phoenix house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all while that single source of income is heavily taxed. To the financially intelligent, ignorance is the ultimate risk, not the asset itself.
Which perfectly transitions us to how one actually overcomes that ignorance. The author doesn't just write books telling you to shift quadrants. He actually created tools to help you do it.
Practical tools.
And he brings up a fascinating analogy in the text about the limitations of books themselves. He says you could never learn to ride a bicycle by only reading a book.
It is a brilliant analogy because it highlights the necessity of experiential learning. You can read a textbook about the physics of balance, the mechanics of the pedals, and the friction of the tires all day long.
You can memorize the whole manual.
But until you actually get on the bike, feel the gravity pulling you sideways, and learn how to correct your momentum, you do not know how to ride a bike.
Right. You just know the theory of a bike.
Financial intelligence is exactly the same. Books provide the theory, but you need an environment to practice the application without catastrophic real-world consequences.
And that is why the author gamified financial literacy. The text details that he went back to work with his wife to build a financial education company specifically to create games.
The cash flow games.
They created the cash flow games. There is Cash Flow 101 for adults, Cash Flow for kids, and an advanced version called Cash Flow 202.
Let us examine the pedagogical structure of these games based on the text. The author states that these games are designed to actively teach players the basic investment skills of converting that heavily taxed earned income into passive and portfolio income.
While you play.
While simultaneously teaching the principles of accounting and financial literacy, he claims they are the only educational products in the world that teach all these vital skills simultaneously. You are learning the math while you are practicing the strategy.
The text makes a clear distinction between the different levels of the games, introducing two distinct types of investing. Cash Flow 101 and Cash Flow for Kids teach the principles of what he calls fundamental investing.
The foundation.
This is the foundation. But then there's Cash Flow 202, which the text explicitly says requires a full understanding of 101 before you can even play it. Cash Flow 202 teaches the principles of technical investing.
This is where the concepts become highly advanced and to the uninitiated, deeply intimidating.
Very intimidating.
The text specifies that technical investing involves advanced trading techniques. The examples given are short-selling call options, put options, and straddles.
Okay, those sound like incredibly complex Wall Street terms. I want to unpack these conceptually because why does the author believe it is so vital for a regular person to learn them?
The author believes it is vital because of how these specific techniques empower the investor regardless of broader economic conditions.
Regardless of the economy.
The text explains that a person who understands these advanced technical investing techniques is able to make money when the market goes up as well as when the market comes down.
Making money in a down market.
Think about it conceptually based on that premise. A traditional investor just buys a stock and prays it goes up. If it crashes, they lose everything. But technical investing is about controlling risk and capitalizing on movement in any direction.
So how does short selling work then?
Short selling, for instance, is essentially betting that an asset will lose value, allowing you to profit from a decline.
And what about options? Calls and puts?
Again, conceptually, based on the text emphasis on protection and making money in down markets, think of a put option, like buying a specialized insurance policy on your investment.
An insurance policy on a stock.
Right. So if the market crashes, that insurance policy pays out massively, offsetting your losses.
That is huge.
A call option gives you the right to lock in a favorable price without committing all your capital up front. And a straddle is a technique used when you know the market is going to be incredibly volatile, moving drastically up or down, but you aren't sure which way.
You just know it's going to move.
It allows you to profit from the sheer volatility itself.
A real investor makes money in an up market and a down market. That is a quote from the Rich Dad. Think about how liberating that is. Most people are terrified of a market crash because their entire retirement, their entire life savings, is tied to the market going strictly upward.
They live in constant fear of a recession.
Constant fear.
Exactly. The text states that one of the reasons real investors make more money is simply because they have more self-confidence. They are less afraid of losing because they actually know how to protect themselves from losses using these technical strategies.
They aren't just guessing.
Average investors think investing is risky because they haven't been formally trained to be professional investors. They're just playing a one-directional guessing game. The author quotes Warren Buffett calling him America's richest investor, who says, quote, "Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing."
Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. It isn't the stock market that is inherently risky. It is your lack of education regarding the stock market that is risky.
Ignorance is the real liability.
But of course, acquiring that education has a cost. And the text addresses this head on. The author says he occasionally hears someone complain, "Your educational games are expensive." They are questioning the ROI, the return on investment.
The author's counter-argument to this critique of cost is a masterful display of perspective.
How does he frame it?
He acknowledges that, yes, compared to a standard entertainment board game like Monopoly or Clue, which you play just to pass the time, they might seem expensive. But you have to compare the cost to the alternative realities of remaining uneducated.
Right. He says the games are not as expensive as a college education, which often just trains you to be an E or an S.
Or as expensive as working hard all your life for earned income, sacrificing your health and time.
They are not as expensive as paying excessive taxes year after year because you don't know how to convert your income. And they are certainly not as expensive as living in terror of losing all your money in the investment markets when a crash inevitably happens.
When you frame it that way, investing in a tool that teaches you to protect your life savings seems like the cheapest, most obvious insurance policy on earth.
The text reiterates the rich dad's philosophy to drive this point home. If you do not understand the differences in the three incomes and do not learn the skills to acquire and protect them, you will probably spend your life earning less than you could and working harder than you should.
Working harder than you should. Yeah. That is the trap.
The games and the financial education they represent are presented as the essential training ground to prevent that exact fate.
We've covered a lot of the structural details now, the micro and the macro.
We have. Now let's zoom out and look at the cultural impact of these ideas. The biographical material provided at the end of the text outlines the author's massive footprint. He isn't just a guy with one good idea.
He is a global phenomenon.
He is the author of 19 books. He has challenged and changed the way tens of millions of people around the world think about money. And his media presence is staggering.
He is everywhere.
The text lists featured guest appearances on CNN, the BBC, Fox News, Al Jazeera, GBTV, PBS, Larry King, Live Oprah. The list goes on.
It is a massive global reach, penetrating incredibly diverse markets and demographics. He is positioned as an outspoken advocate for financial education who uses straight-talk irreverence and courage to actively challenge conventional wisdom.
He isn't trying to be polite. He is trying to be effective.
Yeah. Now, among his 19 books, the text specifically highlights a very interesting high-profile collaboration.
This is a big one.
It is a book called Why We Want You to Be Rich, Two Men, One Message, which is co-authored by Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki.
Before we delve into the text's description of this specific book, we must explicitly state to you, the listener, that our discussion of this collaboration is strictly an analysis of the provided source material.
Absolutely.
We are not taking any political stance, nor are we endorsing any political figures, viewpoints, or campaigns. Our task is solely to report impartially on the content and the marketing copy provided in the text.
Thank you for making that clear. We are looking purely at the words on the page and the stated goals of the publication.
Right.
The promotional material for this book includes a quote from Steve Forbes, the president and CEO of Forbes, Inc. He says, quote, "In these uncertain economic times, these two titans of business have joined forces on a book that underscores the pressing need for financial literacy."
Let us analyze the stated goal of this specific collaboration based strictly on the marketing copy. The text indicates that Trump and Kiyosaki take an alternative approach to the standard personal finance book.
They are explicitly not writing a conventional how-to manual.
They aren't giving a step-by-step guide to real estate. Instead, the book is focused on how they think. The bullet points promise to give insight into how these two men think, why they win financially, and to allow the reader to see the world of money, business, and investing through their eyes.
It is about changing your way of thinking about money in life rather than just copying their specific actions.
So why does this matter in the context of our deep dive? Why is the text emphasizing this partnership?
If we consider the value of diverse perspectives, the text suggests that in an information age, exposing yourself to the thought processes of different prominent financial figures is a core component of building your own financial intelligence.
It is about expanding your mental models.
It is not about hero worship or copying their exact path. It is about understanding the mental frameworks they use to assess, risk, evaluate value, and spot opportunity. By studying how different successful people think, you expand your own cognitive toolkit.
You learn to recognize patterns that the standard formula trains you to ignore.
That makes perfect sense. It all comes back to expanding your financial vocabulary and your mental models.
All right, we're moving into the final stretch here. Let's bring everything we've discussed today all back home to you, the listener. The final chapter of this book leaves us with a stark daily choice.
A daily choice.
The text states that all of you were given two great gifts, your mind and your time. It's entirely up to you to do what you please with both.
This is where the lofty philosophy becomes immediate, granular, and deeply personal. The author argues that every single dollar bill that enters your hand forces a choice.
Every single dollar.
You and only you have the power to determine your destiny with that dollar. The bank doesn't decide. The government doesn't decide. You decide.
The text breaks down exactly what those choices mean, and it is brutally honest. If you spend that dollar foolishly, you are actively choosing to be poor.
Choosing to be poor.
If you spend it on liabilities, things like a bigger car or a larger primary residence that take money out of your pocket every month, you are choosing to join the middle class trapped on that treadmill.
Wrapped on the treadmill.
But if you invest that dollar in your mind, if you learn how to acquire true assets that generate passive or portfolio income, you will be choosing wealth as your goal and your future. Every single day, with every single dollar, you make a conscious decision to be rich, poor, or middle class.
It is a heavy responsibility, but it is also an incredibly empowering one. The text emphasizes that your future is determined by the choices you make today, not tomorrow.
You cannot wait for the perfect market conditions.
You have to start applying financial intelligence with the dollars you have right now.
And the author doesn't just want you to keep this realization to yourself. He makes the passionate plea about legacy.
This part is crucial.
He urges you to choose to share this knowledge with your children, to actively prepare them for the real economic world that awaits them. Because as he warns, based on everything we've discussed about the E&S quadrants, the traditional world and the traditional schools will not do it for you.
They just aren't equipped to teach this.
No one else will teach them how to be financially free.
It is a call to become the financial educator for your own family, breaking the generational cycle of the standard formula and replacing it with true financial literacy.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today. We've deconstructed the trap of the standard formula and why saving alone is a losing game.
We've looked at the granular mechanics of using financial intelligence instead of banks to acquire assets, like the friend did with the Phoenix house.
We've explored the 3 different types of income and the vital urgent necessity of converting your highly taxed earned income into passive and portfolio income.
We've seen how gamifying education can conquer the paralyzing fear of investing and why understanding technical investing protects you in a down market.
The overarching theme of all these points is the necessity of a profound mindset shift. Relying on the old rules in a new economy is a recipe for anxiety and struggle.
The transition from the industrial age to the information age requires a transition from hard physical labor to high financial intelligence.
So I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to ponder today. The author insists throughout this text that money is only an idea. He says that getting more of it simply requires changing your thinking. It isn't about working harder, it is about thinking differently.
Thinking differently.
If money is truly just an idea, what is the very first idea about money you need to unlearn today?
Is it the idea that you need massive amounts of money to make money?
Or is it the idea that your house, the one draining your bank account every month, is your greatest asset?
Or is it simply the deeply ingrained idea that hard work alone is enough to secure your future?
That is something for you to mull over as you look at your own map. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the formulas you were handed. Keep investing in your mind and keep digging deep. We will see you next time.